Hello, Telangana TET aspirants. So this is the third live class on the Telangana TET exam, Change Development and Pedagogy section. So today we are going to cover the second unit, that is understanding learning. So this is the second unit. So in the previous live session, we covered entire unit one, development of child, and in this live session, we are going to cover second unit. So let's not waste much time and get into the class. So this live session completely covers so this is the second unit in the CDP syllabus. So understanding learning concepts. So in this particular class, we are going to do deep dive into how children acquire new knowledge, how they develop behavior, different mechanisms, theories, and dimensions of understanding learning. Everything end to end we are going to discuss in this live class. So this is a very useful live session. If you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, do subscribe to our YouTube channel, because we are going to cover more and more sessions on the Telangana TET exam, along with practice question mock test sessions as well. So now let's get into the details. So what is learning basically? What is the definition of learning? Learning is a relatively permanent change in behavior or potential behavior resulting from experience or practice. Experience or practice. So learning, it's a permanent change in behavior. Learning is considered as a permanent change in behavior or potential behavior, and it will result in experience or practice. It is a process, it's not a product. So learning should be always treated as a process. It should not be treated as a product. Only if you treat it as process, then only that experience to practice, that mechanism works in the learning. So this is the core definition of learning. And the framework of learning, there are three frameworks in learning, three important frameworks. One is input, one is process, and one is outcome. So what is an input? Input, stimuli or information received, environment, teachers, and books. So information received through the environmental factors, teacher, books, so that is called as input. It's a stimuli or information received basically. Next, the second framework is process. It's internal mental operations like encoding, relating to past knowledge, and practicing. So input followed by process and followed by outcome. Outcome is change in behavior, skill acquisition, or new understanding. So this is the exact sequence of the learning process, that is input, process, and outcome. So this is the sequence of learning. Learning is continuous, goal directed, universal, and involves the whole person. So learning involves one entire child, entire individual. It's a continuous and goal oriented process, and it's a universal process basically. So this is the basic definition of learning and the framework: input, process, and outcome. Next, factors that shape learning. So what are the factors that usually shape learning properly? So one is personal factors. Maturation, biological readiness is one important factor that shape learning. Motivation, the desire to learn, the zeal to learn, and health, physical and mental well-being of the child also is an important factor that shapes learning. Aptitude and intelligence, so natural talent and cognitive capacity. So natural talent is also very important, that shapes the learning basically. So four factors: more maturation, motivation, health, aptitude, and intelligence. These are the personal factors that shape learning. So an MCQ is expected on this, so do remember these points. And environmental factors that shape learning, or family or home, school, or society. So family, school, and society are the three environmental factors that usually shape learning. Its influence of peers and digital resources basically. So next, behaviorism, learning as association. So focuses on observable behaviors, the role of the environment, etc. So Pavlov proposed classical conditioning. So what is classical conditioning? According to Pavlov, learning through association. Example: bell and food experiment. So you need, so if a child learns through association by interacting, so that is called as classical conditioning. It is used in classrooms for forming habits and emotional responses. So that is called as classical conditioning. The second one is Skinner proposed operant conditioning. So what is an operant conditioning? It's a learning through consequences. So here the child learns everything through consequence, doing something and analyzing the consequences. Reinforcement, it can be both positive or negative. It increases behavior, punishment decreases it. So it's all about operant conditioning proposed by Skinner. And the third one is Thorndike trial and error. So what is Thorndike trial and error? It's loss of learning. Readiness, learner must be ready. Exercise, practice makes perfect. And effect, satisfaction strengthens the bond. So this is Thorndike trial and error process. So these are three important processes. You can expect MCQs on it. Classical conditioning was proposed by Pavlov. Operant conditioning is proposed by Skinner, and trial and error is proposed by Thorndike. So these are the three associations of learning. Behavioralism, basically. So next, constructivism, learning as discovery. So learning as discovery, this is also one of the important process. Gestalt and observational learning. So Gestalt, learning as insight. So according to Kohler and Kofka, learning happens through a sudden movement. So according to Kohler and Kofka, learning is a process that happens through a sudden movement or insight. It's like movement, not just trial and error. It's not only just trailing and error. It is about perceiving things as a whole rather than some of its parts, basically. So that is Gestalt, learning as insight, according to Kohler and Kofka. And Bandura, observation or social learning. Learning occurs by observing and imitating models. So usually a child also learns in such a way that where he or she observes the people and imitate models. So this is called as Bandura, observational or social learning. The four steps in Bandura observational learning are attention, retention, reproduction, motivation. So this is the right sequence in Bandura observational or social learning. The four steps include attention, retention, reproduction, motivation. So these are the four important steps here. So next, dimensions of learning. So what are the important dimensions of learning? One is cognitive. Cognitive is one of the important dimensions where knowledge, comprehension, and intellectual skills happen in cognitive learning. And affective learning. It is all about attitude, values, emotions, and motivations. Affective learning and psychomotor learning. It's all about physical skills and coordination. It's about writing, sports, and hands-on tasks. So the three important dimensions of learning include cognitive learning, affective learning, and psychomotor learning. Next, if we see motivation, the engine of learning. So motivation is one important aspect of learning. It is also considered as the engine of learning. So an MCQ is expected on it. What is the base? What is the primary engine of learning? That is motivation. So motivation is of few types: intrinsic motivation and extrinsic motivation. So what is an intrinsic motivation? Internal desire, learning for the sake of genuine interest and curiosity. So internal desire, so it's all about learning for the sake of genuine interest and curiosity, is called as intrinsic motivation. So in intrinsic motivation, the child will have his own internal desire on or about the learning. And extrinsic motivation, it's all external rewards, grades, prizes, praise, and recognition. So that is extrinsic motivation. So motivation initiates, directs, and sustains learning over time. Without it, the learning process stalls entirely, according to this process. So motivation is all about that, intrinsic and extrinsic. So memory and forgetting. Encoding. So in memory and forgetting, encoding is one important part. Receiving and attending to sensory input. Receiving and attending to sensory input. Retrieval, accessing and reconstructing, storing information. So encoding means it's receiving and attending to sensory input, and retrieval means accessing and reconstructing stored information. And what is storage? Sensory, short term, long term consolidation. So memory flows through these stages. Sensory memory lasts fractions of seconds. So sensory memory is something that will not stay for long, that will not last for long. It's a short term memory. So sensory memory is also called as short term memory. This is very important point for MCQ. One MCQ is 100% expected on this topic, on this particular aspect. Sensory memory, it's a short term memory. Basically, it holds small amount like 20 to 30 seconds, and long term memory is permanent storage, basically. So in this memory, there is a decay. Information fades from disuse over time. And interference, new information blocks retrieval of old information. And retrieval failure, information is stored but cannot be accessed. So this is all about the memory and forgetting aspect. So next, transfer of learning. So what is the transfer of learning? Applying knowledge learned in one context and the. So if the child is applying the knowledge from one context to another context, so that is called as transfer of learning. Previous learning, in this previous learning plays an important role in transfer learning. Whatever knowledge that occurred previously, it plays an important role in the application into another task. For example, how to ride a bicycle helps in how to learn a scooter. If a child learns how to ride a bicycle, he will easily learn scooter also. Here, the learning is transferring. The knowledge is transferring, basically. Previous learning hinders new learning. Example, a left hand driving habit interfering with right hand driving habit. So this is also one important point. Previous learning has no effect. Basically, knowledge of history has no bearing on learning cricket. So basically, to learn the cricket, you don't need to know the history. Basically, you don't need history knowledge to learn cricket. So previous learning has not no impact much in transfer of learning. So that's all about the understanding learning concept of this particular lesson. So if you have any doubts or queries on this particular chapter, you can ask through comment section, and we will give the clarity. You can also like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'll be providing more and more classes. And here, one important point we missed. So Piaget cognitive constructivism. So Piaget proposed cognitive constructivism focuses on individual discovery. A child constructs knowledge through schemas, assimilation, and accommodation. This is the right sequence. Schemas, assimilation, and accommodation, according to Piaget cognitive constructivism and Vygotsky social constructivism. The key concept is ZPD, zone of proximal development, the gap between what a child can do alone versus with the help and scaffolding. So this is why Vygotsky social constructivism. An important in TET exam, one MCQ is definitely expected on either cognitive constructivism or social constructivism. So remember these important pointers. So that's all about it. So do like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Stay tuned to Srimata Education for more updates on TG TET. Aditya, thank you. Interested in your classes. Thank you very much, Aditya. We will be providing more and more classes also. You can follow it regularly so that it will be very helpful to you all. So let's meet tomorrow again with another class. Do subscribe to our channel. Thank you.